Bollywood, the Indian version of Hollywood, is what I like to describe as a weird bootleg version of Hollywood at first glance. Like when you're going down the cereal aisle and you see a cereal called King Crunch, and you obviously know it's some kind of off-brand ripoff of Captain Crunch, but then you try it and it tastes so much better. So much better. Well, that's what Bollywood is, the King Crunch of Hollywood. So what is Bollywood? What makes it so great? How did Bollywood come to be? Well, Bollywood and the Indian cinema industry was created by I cannot pronounce this. Was officially made in 1899, but the first movie was made by the Lumiere brothers in 1896, a few years earlier. Datsafata, or as close as I can pronounce it, is known as the father of Indian cinema industry. I mean, Dad is right in his name. He was the first person to ever, in India, make a full-length movie in 1913. But the reason they called him the father of Indian cinema was because he inspired people to make their own movies. As a matter of fact, by the 1930s, there were 200 movies, and each year there was 200 plus more. There was Alarm Ara in 1931, and 6 years later, Kisha Kanya, the first colored film in India, in 1937. Despite the many difficulties that the country was facing at the time, the 1950s was the gold mine of Bollywood. The best movies, music, and actors came from this period. It had new genres, such as laughter and comedy, instead of its sad and depressing movies. So in all, Bollywood was doing amazing. But sadly, in 1970s to the 1990s, they focused on making movies showing the everyday struggle of India. Okay, so let's talk about music, or to be exact, Bollywood music. What you just saw is some of the music in Bollywood movies. You see, music has been a big part of Indian movies since Alarm Ara, which has 7 songs in total. But the movie with the most songs is India Shaba, with 69 songs. But nowadays, there's only 6 to 10 songs. Interesting fact is that in the music there can be 10 to 10,000 of actors in one scene alone. Bollywood has influences on Hollywood, such as Merlin Rogue and Slumdog Millionaire. It's inspired by the structure and stories of Indian cinema. And speaking of influences, the Bollywood dance is a familiar sight in Western TV and cinema. The dance is a perfect beauty of pizzazz and wonderful facial expressions. Each dance has its own style. The hands act like a form of sign language and sets up the story, as the hips, head movements, and eyes set up the mood. And with that all together, you have Bollywood, the king crunch of Hollywood.